Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be showing you how to crochet this American Girl doll version of the Harry Styles J.W. Anderson cardigan. So I've seen a lot of videos where people made this for themselves, but I haven't seen any where people made it for their American Girl doll, and so I thought it would be a really fun thing to try, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. So yeah, let's just get straight into the tutorial. So for the sweater, I will be using Big Twist Value yarn, and it is a medium 4-weight yarn. I will be using the colors Deep Red, Burnt Orange, Pale Yellow, Forest Green, Cornflower Blue, and Black. And I will be using a size 5.5mm crochet hook. Okay, so basically I drew out a little plan for you so that you could kind of see what's going on and how this is going to be made. So there are going to be 2 sleeve panels, 2 front panels, and 1 back panel. The squares for the back panel are going to be 9 stitches by 9 rows. The squares for the sleeve panels are going to be 9 stitches by 9 rows, and the squares for the front panel are going to be 10 stitches by 9 rows, just to make them a little bit wider for the front. So basically I'm going to show you how to crochet these squares, but we're going to align the squares like that and sew them together, and then we'll fold it down and sew it to create a cardigan. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on here. So I'm going to start off by showing you how to make the 9 by 9 squares. So you're going to start with a slip knot, and then you will chain 10. And once you have chained 10, you're going to skip the first stitch and single crochet into the second stitch. You are going to single crochet all along this row, which will give you a total of 9 single crochets altogether. So for the second row, you're going to chain 1 and turn, and as you can see, there are 2 loops here that we normally go into both of them, but we're only going to be going into the back one for this. So it will be like ribbing like we did on the edge of the beanie if you saw that video, but you're going to just go in single crochet in the back loops of all of these stitches, and you will have 9 single crochets all together. So for the next row, you're going to chain 1 and turn, and then you're going to single crochet in the back loop, and you're going to continue this for each row forward. You're going to go until you have 9 rows all together, including the first 2 that we already did, and you're going to have to make 17 of these squares with the colors of your choice for the cardigan. So for the front panel squares, you're going to be doing pretty much the same thing. You're going to start with a slip knot, and instead of chaining 10, you're going to chain 11 this time. So then once you've done that, you're going to skip the first chain and single crochet into the second chain from the hook, and you will just do a single crochet in each stitch across, which will give you 10 single crochets all together. So then for the next row, you're going to chain 1 and turn, and then you're going to single crochet in the back loop of each stitch, and you will have 10 single crochets when you're done with this. So you are going to repeat this row until you have 9 rows all together. The only difference in this square is that you were chaining 11 at the beginning instead of 10, but you are going to need to make 6 of these squares all together. Okay, so here I have all of my squares, and I want to tell you that you should have 23 squares all together, including the front panel ones and the other ones. But right now, you could weave in the ends if you want, but honestly, I think it's kind of a waste of time because you're going to be sewing them together anyway. So I just ended up clipping off the ends pretty short, but not short enough so that the knot would come out. But I mean, you could weave in the ends, but I just didn't find the need to do that. So you're going to want to either weave in the ends or clip off the ends of all your squares before we move on to the next step. So once you have gotten rid of all of those ends, you're going to need to start arranging your squares to get ready to sew them together. So you're going to take 9 of your 9 by 9 squares and arrange them in 3 rows of 3. And then you're going to come to the top and add 3 more squares going up on each side with that gap in the middle for the neck. And these will be your 10 by 9 squares that you're using that for. And then you're going to be adding the sleeves. So I don't really know how to explain the way I did this. Basically, you're taking, these are all 9 by 9 squares for the sleeves, but you're taking two coming out of one of the front panels and two coming out the top of the back panel, if that makes any sense. But I'm not really sure how to explain it, so just look at this picture for reference, and once you have laid them out how you want, make sure you take a picture in case they get moved or something so that you don't lose the way you set them up. So next I'm going to be showing you how to sew them together. So as you can see, the black is in the middle and the orange is on the right side, but to sew them together, you're going to have to switch them around. So then I'm gonna just stitch them together real quick. And as you can see, the wrong side is opposite, but when you turn it to the right side, it's how you would want it normally. So you kind of just have to flip it around sometimes, and you'll just kind of have to play it by ear and see kind of what's happening. But make sure you kind of look at it and figure out how you're gonna have to sew it before you actually sew it, so that you don't mess it up and have to take it out, which I have done many times. So here I've got another example of that. I've sewn the bottom 3 squares together, and I'm about to sew on that orange one, which would normally go on top, but I'm going to have to flip it around so that it's actually on the bottom when I sew it together. Make sure you remember that the wrong sides looks worse than the right side. So all of these kind of straight edges you can see where I was sewing. Where you're sewing is the wrong side, so when you flip it around, that's the right side that looks better because it's like a clean edge. So you want to make sure that you sew them all together on the wrong side so that you can flip it around and it'll look nice, and it's not just kind of a mix of both, if that makes sense. So once you have finished sewing them together, it should look something like this on the wrong side, and basically we are going to be folding it in half like this and sewing it down so you can kind of see the sweater is starting to form, and that's how it's going to look. But you're actually going to need to fold it down the opposite way from what I just did, so that the right sides are facing each other and the wrong side is facing outwards. And then you're going to be sewing down the sides just like this, which will put your sweater together. Okay, so I have finished sewing it down, and here is what it looks like. This is the wrong side, obviously that is the right side. But now you're going to actually be flipping it right sides out so that it looks much neater, and then we are going to start crocheting the borders. So here we go, I've got it right sides out, and now I'm just flipping over the edges. So yours should look something like this. Obviously the patches may be in different colors in different places, but it should be looking something like this right about now. So now we're going to be working on the bottom ribbing. So I'm using my 5.5mm crochet hook and my red yarn. So I'm going to go to the bottom right side of my cardigan, and I'm just going to insert my hook at the very corner, and then I'm just going to pull up a loop with my red yarn, and I'll chain one using both strands of yarn, and then I'm going to drop the shorter one and keep using the one connected to the skein of yarn. And I'm going to chain 5 all together, including that first one with both of the strands of yarn. Then I'm going to skip the first chain and single crochet into the next one, and then I'm going to single crochet in the other chains, which will give you a total of 4 single crochets. And then next I'm going to be doing a slip stitch into the next stitch and the next one after that, which will give 2 slip stitches, and then I'm going to chain 1 and turn, and then I'm going to skip those 2 slip stitches I just did, and in the back loop only I'm going to do a single crochet on that red one, and I'm going to do another back loop single crochet in the next stitch and another in the next stitch, and then the last stitch I'm just going to single crochet normally. So this is basically just a way of attaching the ribbing as I'm doing it. If it's a little bit too complicated, then you can just do the ribbing separately and sew it on, but I didn't really feel like doing that, so I thought this would be easier. So you're going to pretty much just repeat those steps all along the border until you have done ribbing all across the bottom. So I'm going to meet you back here once I've done that. So I have finished the bottom edge, and make sure that you finish off with the crochet row and not a slip stitch, by the way. But now I'm just going to cut it and pull through a loop to create a knot. So now I'm going to be grabbing my blue yarn, which I'm going to be using to go around the neckline, and I didn't use this for any of the patches because I noticed that in the real cardigan that the blue was only used for the neckline. So I'm going to insert my hook in the bottom left-hand corner and pull up a loop with my blue yarn. Then I'm going to chain one with both strands. I'm going to drop the shorter one and do a single crochet in the next stitch. And then I'm just going to be doing single crochets all around the neckline of this sweater. And it doesn't really matter how many stitches you end up with, as long as you have like a decent amount. It's not like only a couple stitches per square. Like you should have around 10 stitches per square, but it honestly doesn't matter that much. But yeah, so I'm going to meet you back here once I have finished my first row of these single crochets. So here I have finished my first row, and as you can see, I didn't do a stitch in every single row. It doesn't really matter that much, but now I'm going to go around 2 more times so that I have a total of 3 rows of single crochet. So now I have finished my 3 rows, and this is what it looks like so far. Now we are going to do the border on the sleeves, so I'm going back to my red yarn for this. So you're going to insert your hook into your sleeves and pull up a loop with your red yarn. And then you're going to chain one. I'm so sorry this is out of the frame. I'm not sure what I was doing. But anyways, you are going to do single crochet 2 together for each 2 rows of the sleeve on the ribbing. Just like that. You're going to do this all around the row, and you should end up with 10 stitches all together. So I have finished my first row, and here's what it looks like. So I'm going to slip stitch into my first chain from last row, and I'm going to chain one. And then I'm just going to single crochet in each stitch around, and you should have a total of 10 stitches. Once you have finished that second row, you're just going to cut a tail and pull through your loop, creating a knot. Repeat these same steps on the other side, which will finish off both of your sleeves. So once you're done with that, you'll have both of your sleeves done, and now you're going to have to weave in your ends because there are a lot of ends that we haven't done yet, so just go ahead and weave those in. Once you have woven in your ends, you are done. So here's what my finished sweater looks like. So that is it for this tutorial, everybody. I had a lot of fun making this sweater, and I've never done anything like that with the patches before, so I thought that was super cool. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!